Hello and welcome back to the Sleep Labs. Tonight, we're diving into the inner currents of the mind, the vast, complex world of emotions. These invisible forces shape our decisions, color our memories, and guide our interactions, often without us even realizing. Joy, fear, love, anger, surprise, each one has its own rhythm, its own chemistry, its own story inside you. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you experiencing this with me? What time is it for you right now, and how are you feeling in this very moment? Are you relaxed, tense, curious, or somewhere in between? Sharing these small details makes the journey feel a little more connected, a little more alive, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the Sleep Labs each week. We explore the hidden wonders of the human mind, the quiet science, the surprising facts, and the little-known corners of consciousness. Take a slow breath, let your thoughts settle, and prepare to explore the 100 fascinating facts about emotions, the invisible architecture of what makes us human. Fact 1. Emotions are the invisible threads that connect your mind and body, shaping every experience you have. They are not just reactions, they are information signaling what matters, what is safe, and what demands attention. When you feel fear, your heart races and senses sharpen, preparing you to respond. When you feel joy, dopamine flows through your brain, reinforcing behaviors that brought that pleasure. Each emotion is a complex choreography of neurons, chemicals, and memories, a full symphony playing silently within you, shaping both your inner world and your outward actions. Fact 2. Happiness is not just a mood. It's a skill the brain can cultivate. Studies have shown that practices like gratitude, mindfulness, and even simple acts of kindness can rewire neural pathways to make joy more accessible. The brain notices positive moments and stores them as mental resources, creating a reservoir of emotional resilience. In this way, happiness is both spontaneous and deliberate, a dance between circumstance and conscious choice. Fact 3. Anger is often misunderstood. It is not simply an unpleasant feeling to suppress. It is a signal of boundaries being crossed or values being threatened. When experienced mindfully, anger can illuminate hidden truths about yourself or your relationships. Neurologically, it activates regions responsible for motivation and decision-making, prompting action. The challenge lies not in erasing anger, but in learning to channel it constructively, so it serves growth rather than destruction. Fact 4. Sadness, though often uncomfortable, is a vital part of emotional life. It slows the mind, focuses attention inward, and allows the processing of loss, disappointment, or unmet expectations. Neuroscientists suggest that sadness deepens empathy, helping you connect with others through shared experience. Like a quiet river carving a canyon, sadness shapes perspective, revealing what is truly meaningful and fostering emotional depth. Fact 5. Fear is one of the most primal emotions, rooted deep in the brain's survival circuitry. It triggers the amygdala, sending your body into alert mode, heightening senses and preparing for immediate action. But fear also has subtle layers: anticipatory fear, social fear, existential fear, each influencing thought, behavior, and memory in unique ways. Understanding fear does not make it disappear. but it can transform it from an uncontrollable force into a guide that helps navigate risk and opportunity. Fact 6. Surprise is an emotion that forces the brain to pause and take notice. It breaks habitual patterns, heightens attention, and makes experiences memorable. Even brief moments of unexpected delight or curiosity can trigger the release of dopamine, enhancing learning and memory. Surprise is a reminder that your mind is constantly predicting the world, and when those predictions are challenged, consciousness becomes fully alive in that fleeting, electrifying moment. Fact 7. Love is perhaps the most complex and multidimensional emotion. It is chemical, with oxytocin and dopamine shaping attachment and desire. It is cognitive, influencing perception, motivation, and decision-making. It is social, connecting individuals in bonds that sustain communities. Romantic love, familial love, platonic love, each activates overlapping but distinct neural networks, creating experiences that are intensely personal yet universally recognizable. Fact 8. Guilt is a subtle, often uncomfortable emotion that reflects moral awareness. It arises when behavior conflicts with values or social norms, prompting reflection, repair, or change. While unpleasant in the moment, guilt can strengthen relationships, enhance empathy, and guide ethical action. The mind processes guilt as both a warning signal and a tool for personal growth, demonstrating that even negative emotions carry vital intelligence. Fact 9. Joy and pleasure are not identical, though they intertwine. Joy is broader, often tied to meaning, connection, and achievement, whereas pleasure tends to be immediate, sensory, or hedonic. Neuroscience shows that repeated experiences of joy can reinforce brain pathways associated with resilience, motivation, and creativity. In other words, joy is a teacher, showing the mind how to recognize and seek what truly enriches life. Fact 10. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both your own and those of others. It allows empathy, perspective, and effective communication, acting as a bridge between feeling and action. Neurologically, emotional intelligence involves a network of regions, including the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, coordinating thought, reflection, and response. Cultivating it doesn't eliminate emotion, but it allows the mind to navigate the rich, turbulent landscape of feeling with skill and grace. Fact 11. Anxiety is often treated as something to be avoided, but it is actually a sophisticated internal alert system. It signals uncertainty, potential danger, or unprocessed worries, activating your body's sympathetic nervous system to prepare for response. While chronic anxiety can feel overwhelming, it also carries the potential to heighten awareness, sharpen problem-solving, and focus attention on what matters most. The key is learning to recognize its messages without letting them take over, transforming anxious energy into a guide rather than a cage. Fact 12. Empathy is the mind's bridge between self and others, allowing you to feel what someone else experiences without losing your own grounding. Neuroscience shows that observing another's pain or joy activates many of the same brain regions as actually experiencing it yourself. Empathy is both emotional and cognitive, sensing another's feelings and understanding their perspective. When nurtured, it strengthens relationships, fosters compassion, and enhances social cohesion, proving that emotions are not isolated events, but threads weaving the human web. Fact 13. Envy, often labeled a negative emotion, is more than petty jealousy. It is a reflection of desire and self-comparison. It signals what we value, what we want, and where we feel lacking. While unchecked envy can harm relationships, conscious awareness can transform it into motivation, self-reflection, and personal growth. Psychologists note that acknowledging envy without judgment allows it to act as a mirror, showing both our aspirations and insecurities, and guiding us toward a more conscious path. Fact 14. Pride is a complex emotional landscape, combining satisfaction, accomplishment, and identity. It can inspire perseverance and confidence, reinforcing effort and skill, but it also carries the risk of arrogance if unchecked. Research suggests that pride activates reward circuits in the brain, promoting behaviors aligned with personal values. When balanced, pride becomes a source of inner strength, an emotional compass signaling achievement and self-recognition without diminishing others. Fact 15. Sadness and empathy often coexist, creating a subtle emotional interplay. Feeling sorrow in response to someone else's misfortune is more than a fleeting reaction. It strengthens social bonds and emotional understanding. Neurologically, observing sadness activates regions involved in your own emotional processing, helping you internalize another person's experience. This emotional resonance makes social life possible, teaching the mind that shared feelings can bridge gaps between lives otherwise separated by circumstance and perception. Fact 16. Jealousy is a nuanced emotion, different from envy in that it involves the fear of losing something already possessed, often attention, affection, or status. It triggers a cocktail of stress hormones and heightens vigilance, alerting you to threats in social or personal domains. While often stigmatized, jealousy can serve a protective function, motivating action, self-reflection, and relational negotiation. Understanding its origin allows it to shift from destructive force to informative signal. Fact 17. Awe is a rare but transformative emotion, often described as the feeling of encountering something vast that challenges understanding. It can arise from nature, art, scientific discovery, or profound human connection. Neuroscientists have found that awe expands perception of time, reduces focus on self, and strengthens feelings of connection to the larger world. This emotion doesn't just inspire, it reshapes cognition, reminding the brain that existence contains dimensions far beyond immediate concerns. Fact 18. Regret is an emotion that binds reflection with motivation. When you experience regret, the brain analyzes choices, outcomes, and personal responsibility, reinforcing learning and guiding future decisions. While lingering regret can be heavy, processed consciously, it becomes a teacher, highlighting missteps and revealing deeper values. It is an emotional dialogue between past action and present awareness, showing that even uncomfortable feelings carry the wisdom of lived experience. Fact 19. Gratitude is a subtle, often overlooked emotion with profound effects on mental and physical health. When you feel grateful, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, reinforcing positive circuits and fostering resilience. Practicing gratitude through journaling, reflection, or verbal acknowledgement strengthens neural pathways associated with emotional regulation, social connection, and overall well-being. Gratitude transforms perception, allowing ordinary experiences to feel richer, more meaningful, and deeply human. Fact 20. Emotional memory is the reason certain experiences linger long after they happen. Emotions tag events in the brain, prioritizing them for retention and recall. A moment of fear, joy, or awe can imprint more strongly than neutral experiences, shaping not just memory but future emotional responses. This mechanism is why revisiting past emotional experiences can feel vivid, why trauma can haunt long after the event, and why moments of beauty and connection remain etched in the mind, demonstrating that feelings are not just fleeting states, but enduring architects of identity. Fact 21. Anger is one of the most primal emotions, rooted in survival and protection. It arises when boundaries are threatened or when perceived injustice occurs. Neurologically, anger triggers the amygdala and releases adrenaline, priming the body for action. While unrestrained anger can be destructive when recognized and managed, it can clarify priorities, assert limits, and drive meaningful change. The emotion itself is neither good nor bad. It is a signal, an internal compass pointing to areas where attention, energy, or transformation is needed. Fact 22. Compassion is the active sibling of empathy, moving beyond understanding another's suffering into a desire to alleviate it. Studies show that acts of compassion release oxytocin, fostering social bonding and reducing stress. Compassion is not only outward-facing, it can be directed inward, encouraging self-care and acceptance. By cultivating this emotion, the mind becomes a space where connection, understanding, and healing are possible, demonstrating that feelings can shape not just perception, but tangible outcomes in the world around us. Fact 23. Guilt serves as the brain's moral feedback loop, signaling when actions diverge from personal or societal values. While persistent guilt can be corrosive, constructive guilt prompts reflection, restitution, and growth. Neurologically, it engages regions responsible for empathy and decision-making, highlighting the interplay between cognition and morality. Recognizing guilt without self-condemnation allows it to become an instrument of ethical awareness rather than a source of shame, reinforcing the intricate connection between emotion and conscience. Fact 24. Joy is a deceptively simple emotion, but it engages a complex network in the brain. It activates dopamine pathways, enhances social bonding, and improves problem-solving and resilience. Moments of joy are often fleeting, yet their impact extends far beyond the immediate experience, shaping memory, behavior, and even physical health. Joy is contagious. A single smile or laugh can ripple through groups, reinforcing the human tendency to seek and share positive emotional states. Fact 25. Loneliness is more than social isolation. It is an emotional signal that something vital is missing from our connections. Neuroscientists find that prolonged loneliness affects not only mood, but also immune function, sleep, and overall health. The emotion is adaptive, urging individuals to seek relationships, community, or meaningful engagement. Recognizing loneliness as a natural, informative response allows it to guide action rather than deepen despair, revealing that even painful feelings carry the potential for renewal. Fact 26. Shame is a deeply social emotion, arising when we perceive that we fall short of standards, our own or those imposed by society. It triggers the brain's threat response and can lead to withdrawal or defensive behavior. Yet, when acknowledged and processed, shame can serve as a catalyst for self-reflection, growth, and authentic connection. Understanding its mechanics allows you to distinguish between destructive self-judgment and the constructive awareness that can reshape behavior and identity over time. Fact 27. Surprise is an emotion that momentarily suspends expectation, activating attention and curiosity. It can be pleasant or unsettling, but its role is consistent: to alert the brain that something new or unexpected has occurred. This heightened state of awareness improves learning, memory, and adaptability, showing that even fleeting emotional responses serve functional, evolutionary purposes. Surprise, in its unpredictability, reminds the mind that life is rarely static, and that emotional agility is key to navigating change. Fact 28. Love is a multidimensional emotion, combining attachment, care, desire, and connection. Neurochemically, it engages oxytocin, dopamine, and vasopressin pathways, creating feelings of warmth, safety, and motivation. Romantic love, parental love, and platonic love differ in expression but share the same capacity to bind individuals, encourage cooperation, and enhance resilience. Love demonstrates the mind's ability to extend beyond self, transforming emotion into social glue that sustains human communities. Fact 29. Embarrassment is an emotion that blends self-consciousness with social awareness. When you blush, stumble, or feel exposed, neural circuits in the prefrontal cortex activate, signaling both recognition of error and concern for social evaluation. While fleeting, embarrassment plays a role in social cohesion, teaching humility, reinforcing norms, and encouraging pro-social behavior. Its uncomfortable sting is balanced by its utility, a reminder that emotions often guide behavior in subtle, socially adaptive ways. Fact 30. Curiosity is an emotional and cognitive state intertwined with reward and motivation. It arises from uncertainty and the desire for knowledge or experience, triggering dopamine release and engaging attention circuits in the brain. Curiosity fuels learning, exploration, and creativity, making it one of the most productive emotions. When nurtured, it encourages open-mindedness and resilience, demonstrating that the drive to understand is not merely intellectual but deeply emotional, guiding humans to seek meaning in a complex, ever-changing world. Fact 31. Anxiety is the mind's early warning system, alerting you to potential threats before they materialize. Though often unpleasant, it prepares the body for action. Heart rate increases, senses heighten, and attention sharpens. Chronic anxiety, however, can overwhelm these protective mechanisms, turning a helpful signal into a constant burden. Understanding its role as a messenger rather than an enemy allows you to work with anxiety, to listen, interpret, and respond, transforming heightened sensitivity into insight and preparedness rather than paralysis. Fact 32. Gratitude reshapes perception, tuning attention toward what is positive, meaningful, and supportive in life. Research shows that practicing gratitude, whether by journaling, reflection, or verbal expression, strengthens social bonds, reduces stress, and enhances resilience. It engages brain regions involved in reward and empathy, fostering well-being and perspective. Gratitude is not mere politeness. It is a deliberate emotional practice that rewires the mind to notice abundance instead of scarcity, deepening emotional richness and mental clarity. Fact 33. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions rooted in survival. It activates the amygdala, triggering fight, flight, or freeze responses. While fear can be paralyzing when excessive, it also guides caution, preparation, and learning. Confronted mindfully, fear can illuminate personal limits, hidden vulnerabilities, and growth opportunities. It is both a biological safeguard and an emotional compass, proving that the mind's most uncomfortable states often carry the most critical information. Fact 34. Envy is often seen as a negative emotion, but it contains a kernel of aspiration. When directed destructively, it fosters resentment and comparison. When recognized and reflected upon, envy can reveal desires, values, or goals that are meaningful to you. Neurobiologically, it engages brain areas involved in reward, social comparison, and self-perception. By transforming envy into motivation rather than senseless reproach, it becomes a mirror that illuminates not who you are against others, but who you want to become. Fact 35. Hope is an emotional engine for perseverance. When visualizing a desired future, the brain releases dopamine, energizing planning, problem-solving, and action. Hope is not naive wishfulness. It is a complex interaction between cognition and feeling, optimism and preparation. It allows the mind to navigate uncertainty without surrendering to despair. In moments of adversity, hope sustains resilience, offering the quiet certainty that even amid difficulty, possibilities remain and effort can influence outcome. Fact 36. Awe is the mind's response to vastness, beauty, or profound insight. It expands perception, often making the self feel smaller in comparison to something greater. This emotion activates neural circuits related to attention, social connection, and meaning-making. Experiencing awe, whether in nature, art, or human achievement, reduces stress, enhances curiosity, and encourages prosocial behavior. It is a reminder that emotions are not just internal experiences. They connect you to the wider world, prompting reflection, reverence, and humility. Fact 37. Pride, when balanced, strengthens identity and motivation. It arises from accomplishment, mastery, or alignment with personal values. Neuroscientifically, pride engages reward circuits and reinforces goal-directed behavior. Excessive pride, however, can isolate, distort self-perception, and hinder empathy. Constructive pride acts as an internal compass, affirming progress, inspiring effort, and providing a sense of continuity between past effort and future potential. It demonstrates the nuanced ways emotions can guide self-understanding and action. Fact 38. Jealousy is complex, often mixing fear, desire, and insecurity. It signals perceived threats to relationships, status, or resources. While socially disruptive if unchecked, jealousy can illuminate unmet needs or vulnerabilities within oneself. Brain imaging shows activation in areas responsible for social comparison and reward processing, highlighting its intricate emotional architecture. Recognizing and reflecting on jealousy transforms it from a source of conflict into a lens through which to examine values, attachment, and the deep drivers of human connection. Fact 39. Sadness is a deep, reflective emotion, often arising from loss, disappointment, or unmet expectations. Though culturally stigmatized, sadness serves adaptive purposes, slowing thought, promoting introspection, and facilitating emotional processing. It engages brain networks involved in social connection and memory, fostering empathy and understanding. By allowing sadness to unfold fully rather than suppressing it, the mind can integrate experience, strengthen resilience, and cultivate a profound sense of meaning in life's challenges. Fact 40. Curiosity is both an emotion and a cognitive force, driving exploration, learning, and adaptation. When uncertainty sparks interest, the brain releases dopamine, increasing attention and memory retention. Curiosity bridges emotion and intellect, turning wonder into action and observation into insight. It is a signal that the mind is alive, engaged, and open to novelty. In cultivating curiosity, you maintain a dynamic relationship with the world, allowing emotion to guide discovery rather than simply react to circumstance. Fact 41. Empathy is the bridge emotion. The ability to feel what another person feels without losing the sense of where you end and they begin. It activates mirror neurons in the brain, those subtle circuits that reflect others' emotions as if they were your own. Empathy allows connection beyond words, tuning your nervous system to another's emotional state. But it requires balance. Too much empathy without boundaries can lead to emotional exhaustion, while too little severs compassion. Cultivated consciously, empathy becomes not just a reaction, but a deliberate act of understanding, one that keeps the world human. Fact 42. Nostalgia is a time traveler's emotion. When it surfaces, it replays memory with warmth rather than accuracy, coloring the past in golden light. The brain releases dopamine and oxytocin when reminiscing, soothing anxiety and creating comfort through familiarity. Though the past can never return, nostalgia allows you to carry its emotional essence forward. The echo of laughter, the scent of summer rain, the texture of a moment once lived. It is both a reminder of impermanence and a gentle reassurance that your story has roots. Fact 43. Disgust is ancient, an emotion born from survival. Its original function was to protect you from contamination, spoiled food, disease, decay. But over time, it evolved into a moral compass, shaping cultural boundaries and social norms. Disgust responses can now be triggered by ideas, actions, or injustices, not just physical threats. It's one of the most visceral emotions, producing immediate physical reactions. A wrinkle of the nose, a recoil of the body, showing how tightly the emotional and physical self are intertwined. Fact 44. Compassion differs from empathy in one essential way. It doesn't just feel, it acts. Compassion transforms emotional resonance into kindness, motivating you to alleviate another's suffering. It engages brain regions linked to reward and social bonding, making giving and caring inherently pleasurable. Compassion-based practices such as mindfulness or loving-kindness meditation have been shown to strengthen neural pathways associated with resilience and reduce stress hormones. It's proof that caring for others literally heals the mind that chooses to care. Fact 45. Anger is one of the most misunderstood emotions, often mistaken for a flaw when it is, in fact, a boundary alarm. It signals injustice, unmet needs, or crossed lines. The physiological surge that accompanies it, adrenaline, heat, tension, is energy meant for change, not destruction. Managed with awareness, anger becomes clarity, a force that defines where you stand and what you will no longer accept. Suppressed, it festers. Expressed mindfully, it transforms. The goal is not to eliminate anger, but to harness its message before its flame consumes the room. Fact 46. Loneliness is the emotional echo of connection unmet. It is not merely the absence of people, but the absence of being seen, understood, or valued. Prolonged loneliness alters brain chemistry, heightening sensitivity to social pain and dampening trust. Yet it also sharpens empathy, making those who've known it more attuned to others' isolation. At its heart, loneliness is a reminder of how deeply humans are wired for connection, a signal not of weakness, but of the most fundamental emotional need. Fact 47. Love, in all its forms, is a neurochemical symphony. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins weave together to create attachment, comfort, and joy. Romantic love ignites the same reward circuits as addictive substances, while long-term love activates regions linked to safety and calm. To love is to surrender control, to allow another person to occupy mental and emotional space within you. It's not merely an emotion, but an ongoing state of vulnerability and trust, sustained by attention and care. Fact 48. Guilt serves as the conscience's compass. When actions conflict with values, the resulting discomfort motivates correction and empathy. Healthy guilt fosters growth and accountability, while excessive guilt can become corrosive, trapping you in cycles of self. Neurologically, it engages the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region involved in empathy, showing how deeply our moral emotions are tied to social connection. Properly balanced, guilt is not punishment, but an opportunity for repair and renewal. Fact 49. Shame is heavier than guilt because it attacks identity rather than behavior. Where guilt says, "I did something wrong," shame whispers, "I am wrong." Chronic shame can fragment the self, disconnecting emotion from worth. Healing, it requires exposure to empathy, both from others and within yourself. When met with understanding instead of rejection, shame dissolves into vulnerability, and vulnerability becomes strength. Emotional resilience often begins in the moment you stop hiding from what hurts. Fact 50. Joy is the purest expression of emotional harmony, a temporary alignment between self, environment, and meaning. It can arise from simple things: sunlight on skin, a shared glance, a moment of stillness. Neurologically, joy floods the body with dopamine and endorphins, softening fear and anchoring presence. Unlike pleasure, which seeks repetition, joy asks for awareness, an openness to life as it is unfiltered. In that openness, even fleeting joy becomes infinite for the instant it exists. Fact 51. Surprise is the emotion of interruption, the brain's rapid recalibration to something unexpected. It lasts only a few seconds, but sparks a cascade of attention, forcing you to reorient your understanding of the moment. This split-second jolt engages both curiosity and alertness, widening your awareness and preparing you for change. Whether it's the delight of a gift or the shock of sudden news, surprise is evolution's way of keeping you adaptive, a flash of wakefulness that says, pay attention. The world just shifted. Fact 52. Hope is emotional gravity in reverse, a force that lifts the mind toward what might be, even when the present feels heavy. Psychologically, hope strengthens resilience, increasing dopamine activity in the brain's reward pathways. It's not blind optimism, but a form of emotional endurance, a willingness to imagine light in the dark. In times of despair, hope doesn't deny pain. It sits beside it, whispering, "Not yet. There's still more ahead." It's the quiet courage that keeps life moving forward. Fact 53. Envy. Often dismissed as toxic, can also be a mirror reflecting desire. It reveals what you long for but haven't yet pursued. There are two forms: malicious envy, which resents another's success, and benign envy, which motivates you to grow. The difference lies in self-worth. When you feel secure, envy becomes inspiration. When you feel lacking, it becomes poison. Understanding envy allows you to transform comparison into curiosity, to ask, what does this feeling want me to create? Fact 54. Gratitude is one of the most transformative emotions. It reconfigures perception by shifting focus from what's missing to what's already present. Studies show that consistent gratitude practice rewires neural pathways, increasing happiness and reducing symptoms of depression. It quiets the restless mind, grounding awareness in abundance. Gratitude doesn't deny struggle. It balances it, reminding you that even in difficulty, there are still small, steady reasons to be thankful. Fact 55. Regret is the emotional residue of choice, the echo of the path not taken. It's a teacher disguised as pain, prompting reflection and growth. Neuroscientists have found that the brain processes regret through the same networks involved in learning from mistakes. In moderation, it sharpens wisdom. In excess, it becomes paralysis. The art of emotional maturity lies in turning regret from punishment into instruction, allowing it to refine your judgment rather than anchor you to the past. Fact 56. Contentment is quieter than happiness, a gentle equilibrium between desire and fulfillment. It doesn't depend on excitement or novelty, but on acceptance. In this state, the nervous system relaxes, stress hormones decrease, and the mind stops reaching for something more. Contentment asks nothing and gives everything the ability to feel enough here and now. It is less a destination than a state of alignment, when inner life and outer reality finally agree to coexist peacefully. Fact 57. Awe is the emotion of vastness, the feeling that arises when something exceeds your understanding. It can be triggered by the stars, music, art, or acts of kindness. In moments of awe, the self momentarily dissolves, giving way to connection with something larger. Brain scans show decreased activity in the default mode network, the region tied to self-focus, suggesting awe is a temporary ego eclipse. It humbles the mind, softens the heart, and reminds you of your small but meaningful place in the universe. Fact 58. Jealousy, unlike envy, is born from fear of loss, the anxiety that something precious might be taken away. It's an ancient survival emotion linked to attachment and protection. But unchecked, it distorts perception, turning love into possession. The key to transforming jealousy lies in its origin: insecurity. When you learn to trust your worth and the stability of connection, jealousy dissolves into appreciation. It's a fierce emotion, yes, but also a chance to strengthen honesty, vulnerability, and trust. Fact 59. Embarrassment is the body's social reset. When you blush, stammer, or look away, your nervous system signals remorse and humility, cues that invite forgiveness from others. Though it feels uncomfortable, embarrassment serves a vital role in maintaining social harmony. It tells the group, "I see my mistake and I care." Paradoxically, those capable of showing embarrassment are often seen as more trustworthy and likable. The very vulnerability that feels unbearable is what makes you human. Fact 60. Curiosity is the emotion that fuels all others. It is the quiet pulse behind discovery, empathy, art, and love. Neurologically, curiosity increases dopamine and activates the hippocampus, the brain's learning center. Emotionally, it turns fear into fascination, transforming uncertainty from threat into invitation. To remain curious, even when life is difficult, is to stay alive in the deepest sense. It's not about seeking answers, but about keeping the flame of wonder burning in a world that often forgets to look. Fact 61. Nostalgia is emotion as time travel. It transports you to a place that no longer exists, a moment preserved in amber. Once thought of as homesickness, modern psychology now sees nostalgia as a stabilizing force. When life feels uncertain, the mind revisits old memories to regain emotional balance. But it's not pure longing, it's warmth wrapped in melancholy, a reminder that you've lived deeply enough to miss something. Nostalgia connects who you were with who you've become, bridging past and present in a single, tender ache. Fact 62. Pride, in its healthiest form, is the satisfaction of integrity, the feeling that your effort, values, and identity align. It's not arrogance, but self-recognition, the inner nod that says, "I did this well." Pride releases dopamine, reinforcing motivation and self-esteem. But when inflated, it becomes hubris, the illusion of superiority. True pride doesn't need to prove itself. It's the quiet kind, the one that smiles inwardly and moves on, content simply knowing you gave your best. Fact 63. Anxiety is the mind's way of trying to prepare for a future it cannot predict. It's a survival mechanism gone into overdrive, the body rehearsing danger even when none exists. Yet, within anxiety lies sensitivity, a heightened attunement to possibility, consequence, and change. Learning to manage it isn't about silencing fear, but teaching it discernment. When understood, anxiety transforms from tormentor to guardian, an alert system that learns, at last, when to rest. Fact 64. Empathy is the emotional bridge between self and other. It activates mirror neurons in the brain, allowing you to feel another's joy or pain as if it were your own. But empathy can be both gift and burden. Too much can lead to burnout, too little to cruelty. Compassion is empathy balanced with wisdom. It feels deeply but doesn't drown. It reaches out a hand instead of losing itself in the tide. In this balance, humanity finds its gentlest strength. Fact 65. Boredom, though often dismissed, is the seedbed of creativity. When stimulation fades, the brain begins to wander, connecting ideas that wouldn't otherwise meet. This mental drift, called default mode thinking, activates the imagination. Boredom is not the absence of meaning, it's the pause that allows meaning to form. The next time you feel restless, consider that your mind might simply be clearing space for something new to emerge. Fact 66. Anger is energy raw, concentrated, and often misunderstood. It arises when boundaries are crossed, when something feels unjust or unsafe. While unchecked anger can be destructive, its purpose is not chaos but protection. It demands recognition, not suppression. When harnessed consciously, anger becomes courage, the fire that fuels change, advocacy, and resilience. It's not the emotion itself that causes harm, but the silence that keeps it from being understood. Fact 67. Compassion fatigue is the quiet exhaustion of caring too deeply for too long. It's common among caregivers, teachers, and anyone who holds space for the suffering of others. Over time, empathy without replenishment drains emotional reserves. The antidote is self-compassion, the same kindness turned inward. To care sustainably, you must remember that your own peace is not a luxury. It's the soil from which all genuine compassion grows. Fact 68. Shame is the emotion of exposure. The sense that you are not just wrong, but unworthy. It can shrink the self into silence, cutting off connection. Yet, when met with empathy, shame dissolves. Neuroscience shows that simply being understood reduces its hold. Healing begins when you tell your story and are not rejected. In that moment, the illusion of isolation breaks, and shame transforms into shared humanity, the understanding that imperfection is what binds us all. Fact 69. Love, at its core, is less a feeling and more a process. The continual act of recognition. It's your nervous system learning safety in another's presence. Your emotions synchronizing through subtle cues of tone, gaze, and touch. Biologically, love floods the body with oxytocin and dopamine, weaving attachment into physiology. Spiritually, it's the dissolution of separation, the quiet understanding that joy multiplies when shared. Love isn't found, it's built moment by moment, through attention and care. Fact 70. Peace is the rarest emotion because it requires nothing. No striving, no proving, no escape. It's the still point where the body's defenses ease and the mind stops grasping for control. Peace is not the absence of emotion, but their integration, the harmony of acceptance. It's found in deep breath, soft light, and moments of surrender. When you touch peace, even briefly, the world doesn't disappear. It simply feels less sharp, as though it's finally safe to rest within it. Fact 71. Curiosity is emotion disguised as thought, a spark that pulls you toward the unknown. It's not just intellectual. It's visceral, releasing dopamine that makes discovery feel like pleasure. Curiosity keeps the brain flexible, open and resilient. It's what drives both science and art, exploration and empathy. The moment you wonder why, your mind expands its borders. In this way, curiosity is a soft rebellion against stagnation, proof that growth begins not with certainty, but with awe. Fact 72. Grief is love with nowhere to go. It's the echo left behind when something meaningful disappears, the emotional imprint of connection that once was. Though often feared, grief is not an illness but a process, the heart recalibrating to a world that feels permanently altered. Neuroscience shows that grieving brains activate the same regions used for attachment, as if still searching for the lost person or place. Over time, grief softens into memory, not absence, but transformation, where love continues in quieter, more invisible forms. Fact 73. Hope is defiance in emotional form. It exists not because life is easy, but precisely because it isn't. Psychologists call it a motivational state, the ability to imagine a better future and believe you can influence it. Hope strengthens the immune system, calms stress hormones, and sustains endurance through hardship. It's a fragile, stubborn flame that survives even when reason falters. In its simplest form, hope is your soul whispering, "Try again." Fact 74. Envy, though uncomfortable, reveals what you desire most. It's often mistaken for malice, but beneath it lies information, a signal pointing toward unmet longing. When you feel envy, ask what it's showing you: admiration in disguise or potential unfulfilled. Handled gently, envy becomes aspiration. Suppressed, it turns corrosive. Emotional maturity means learning to translate jealousy into direction, to say, "I want that," and then begin the quiet work of making it real. Fact 75. Joy is the body's way of saying yes to life. It floods the brain with endorphins, synchronizing breath, heartbeat, and energy into rhythm. But unlike pleasure, which fades quickly, joy is expansive. It doesn't demand conditions. It can emerge in stillness, in music, in sunlight flickering through leaves. Joy reminds us that happiness is not a pursuit but a presence, the brief alignment of being alive and knowing it. When you feel joy, you are not escaping the world. You are meeting it fully. Fact 76. Regret is a teacher that speaks softly once you stop resisting it. It arises when your choices and values fall out of harmony, not to punish you, but to remind you of what matters. The mind replays past actions, not out of cruelty, but to rehearse better futures. In this way, regret sharpens intuition, helping you act with greater alignment next time. Healing from regret doesn't erase the past. It reclaims it, turning pain into wisdom. Fact 77. Contentment is the emotion most often overlooked because it lacks spectacle. It's not the rush of excitement or the glow of victory. It's quiet satisfaction, the feeling of enough. Biologically, it's tied to serotonin, balancing the nervous system and grounding the mind. In a culture addicted to more, contentment is radical. It teaches that joy doesn't require constant novelty, only presence. It's not about settling. It's about seeing beauty in what already is. Fact 78. Awe is the rare emotion that makes the self disappear. It floods the brain with a sense of vastness, the recognition of something greater than you. whether in nature, music, or the night sky. In that moment, ego dissolves, replaced by humility and connection. Scientists have found that awe expands moral awareness and generosity. It quiets fear and awakens curiosity. To experience awe is to remember that you are part of something infinite, a universe observing itself in wonder. Fact 79. Guilt, unlike shame, is focused not on who you are, but on what you've done. It's the emotional signal of conscience, an internal compass correcting course. Healthy guilt motivates repair and empathy. Toxic guilt lingers beyond reason. The key lies in forgiveness, not as absolution, but as acknowledgement that you're still learning. Guilt reminds us that morality is emotional before it's intellectual, a feeling that pulls us back toward integrity. Fact 80. Emotional resilience is not about being unshaken. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to feel deeply without drowning. Neuroscience shows that resilience grows through recovery, not avoidance. Every time you survive pain and still choose openness, your nervous system learns trust again. Emotional strength isn't hard. It's flexible. It's the art of falling apart and rebuilding, softer but still whole. Fact 81. Nostalgia is often misunderstood as longing for the past, but it's really a way the brain preserves identity. When you recall an old song or a summer long gone, you're not just replaying memory, you're reaffirming who you were and how you became who you are now. Emotionally, nostalgia releases dopamine and oxytocin, soothing loneliness and stabilizing mood. It's the mind's way of saying, you've lived, you've loved, you've mattered. Though it looks backward, nostalgia helps you stay anchored in the present by reminding you that you've already survived change. Fact 82. Loneliness is not simply the absence of people, it's the absence of resonance. You can be surrounded by others and still feel unseen if the connection lacks depth. Neurologically, loneliness activates the same regions of the brain that register physical pain, which is why it hurts in the body as much as in the heart. But loneliness also functions as a signal. Your emotional hunger pangs urging you to reach outward. When met with compassion instead of shame, loneliness becomes an invitation back to belonging. Fact 83. Compassion is one of the rare emotions that grows stronger the more it's used. When you witness suffering and respond with kindness, your brain releases oxytocin and activates mirror neurons, circuitry that literally allows you to feel with others. Compassion dissolves the illusion of separation, reminding you that empathy isn't weakness but intelligence. It's emotional alchemy, transforming pain, yours or another's, into connection. The more you offer it, the more your capacity to love expands. Fact 84. Anger is energy with direction. Beneath its fire lies protection of boundaries, of justice, of suppressed, it corrodes. Expressed blindly, it destroys. But understood and channeled, anger becomes one of the most constructive emotions you have. It clears fog, exposes imbalance, and demands change. Studies show that righteous anger, handled mindfully, improves problem solving and strengthens resolve. The key is not to extinguish anger, but to refine it, to let it illuminate rather than burn. Fact 85. Gratitude rewires the brain toward contentment. When you consciously recognize something good, a breath, a sunrise, a small kindness, neural pathways shift from scarcity to sufficiency. Gratitude isn't about ignoring pain. It's about widening your perception to include what's still beautiful. Practiced daily, it changes emotional default settings, strengthening resilience and lowering anxiety. It's not magic. It's neuroplasticity in action, proof that appreciation, when repeated, becomes a habit of peace. Fact 86. Anxiety is anticipation caught in a loop. The mind's attempt to control the uncontrollable. It's not an enemy, but a misunderstood guardian scanning for danger long after the threat is gone. The same sensitivity that fuels anxiety also fuels empathy, creativity, and foresight. The trick lies not in silencing it, but in grounding it, slowing breath, naming what's real, distinguishing signal from noise. When treated with patience, anxiety transforms from chaos into awareness, an overprotective friend learning to trust again. Fact 87. Love is not a single emotion, but a symphony attachment. Empathy, trust, and desire playing in delicate synchrony. It reshapes the brain's reward system, creating chemical bonds stronger than most addictions. But love also lives beyond biology in choice, in daily acts of gentleness, in forgiveness that asks for nothing. True love, whether romantic or not, is less about intensity and more about consistency. The steady warmth that teaches your nervous system that it is safe to be known. Fact 80. Shame is the heaviest of emotions because it convinces you that you are the mistake. It thrives in silence, shrinking self-worth until you believe you must hide to be accepted. Yet, when spoken aloud in safe company, shame loses its grip. Vulnerability is its antidote. To share what you fear makes you unlovable and still be met with care. That is emotional liberation. In truth, shame cannot survive exposure. It fades in the light of empathy. Fact 89. Wonder is the beginning of both emotion and intelligence. It's that spark of astonishment that reminds you the world is still capable of surprising you. Studies show that moments of wonder expand perception of time, increase altruism, and reduce self-focus. When you stand before something vast, a storm, a symphony, a newborn, your mind widens and ego quiets. Wonder humbles the intellect and exalts the heart, bridging curiosity and gratitude in a single breath. Fact 90. Forgiveness is emotional courage disguised as surrender. It's not about forgetting or excusing, but releasing the burden of bitterness that anchors you to the past. Neuroscience reveals that forgiveness reduces stress and rebalances emotional centers in the brain, literally calming the body. It's one of the few acts that frees both giver and receiver, a declaration that you refuse to let pain define your future. Forgiveness, at its core, is self-preservation, a soft strength that says, I choose peace. Fact 91. Joy, though fleeting, is one of the most profound states the brain can experience. It doesn't arise from perfection or the absence of struggle, but from alignment when thought, body, and feeling move together in harmony. Joy can appear in the smallest moments: sunlight on your skin, laughter shared in the dark, the sudden realization that you are alive and safe right now. Neurochemically, it's a symphony of dopamine and serotonin. But emotionally, it's the universe exhaling through you, a reminder that even in the heaviest lives, light still finds a way to break in. Fact 92. Guilt, unlike shame, is not about who you are, but what you've done, and that distinction makes it a vital moral compass. Healthy guilt keeps empathy alive, helping you repair harm and restore trust. But when guilt festers, it becomes corrosive, turning reflection into self-punishment. The art lies in transforming guilt into growth, acknowledging wrongs, making amends, then releasing what's already been learned. Guilt's true purpose is movement, to remind you that you care deeply enough to change. Fact 93. Hope is not optimism. It's defiance in the face of uncertainty. It's the quiet, enduring belief that something better is still possible, even when logic argues otherwise. Psychologists describe hope as goal-directed persistence, the ability to envision a future and take steps toward it despite obstacles. It is both fragile and fierce, a flame that can burn through despair. Every act of healing, rebuilding, or forgiving begins with hope, the mind's most resilient form of imagination. Fact 94. Surprise is the emotion that resets. Expectation. When the world doesn't align with what your brain predicted, your attention snaps awake, rewiring pathways to accommodate the new. Surprise is at the root of learning, creativity, and curiosity, the jolt that makes novelty feel alive. It keeps perception fresh, preventing routine from numbing the senses. Even unpleasant surprises have purpose. They remind you that reality is still unscripted, that wonder and uncertainty share the same doorway. Fact 95. Fear is ancient intelligence, the body's way of protecting itself long before thought evolved. It sharpens senses, quickens the heart, and prepares muscles for survival. But in modern life, where most threats are emotional or imagined, fear often misfires. The challenge isn't to destroy fear, but to recalibrate it, to let it alert without ruling you. When fear is met with curiosity, it transforms from a jailer into a guide, pointing toward the parts of life that matter most. Fact 96. Melancholy is not mere sadness, but a deep, reflective quiet, the kind of emotion that allows the soul to rest inside its own complexity. Artists, writers, and thinkers throughout history have described melancholy as fertile soil for creativity, a space where sorrow and beauty coexist. Neurologically, it's associated with slower brain rhythms and introspective thought. Emotionally, it invites you to listen, not to fix or escape, but to understand. In moderation, melancholy is healing. It teaches you to sit gently with impermanence. Fact 97. Contentment is one of the least dramatic yet most transformative emotions. It asks for nothing more than this moment, a meal, a breath, a pause. While joy bursts, contentment hums quietly beneath it, the emotional equivalent of steady ground. It arises when the mind stops chasing what it lacks and begins noticing what it already has. Studies show that sustained contentment lowers inflammation, improves sleep, and extends lifespan. It is not resignation, but balance, peace made visible. Fact 98. Curiosity is emotion disguised as cognition, a spark of intrigue that compels exploration and deepens connection. It releases dopamine, rewarding discovery and motivating continued learning. But curiosity also functions as empathy's twin. When you're curious about someone's experience, you open a door beyond judgment. In this way, curiosity becomes an emotional practice, one that transforms fear of the unknown into fascination with possibility. It keeps the mind young and the heart awake. Fact 99. Desire is life's gravitational pull, the force that draws you toward meaning, connection, and creation. It's not only sexual or material, it's the hunger for experience itself. Desire motivates art, discovery, relationships, and evolution, but unmanaged, it can enslave the mind to endless craving. The balance lies in awareness to feel desire fully without mistaking it for identity. In that balance, desire becomes sacred, not a demand, but a reminder of the soul's capacity to long for more. Fact 100. Emotional intelligence is the bridge between feeling and wisdom. It's the ability to sense, interpret, and guide emotions, both yours and others, without being consumed by them. It's not about control, but fluency, knowing when to listen, when to speak, when to let go. Emotional intelligence shapes relationships, creativity, and resilience, allowing logic and empathy to coexist. In many ways, it is the quiet superpower of being human, proof that emotion, when understood, is not weakness, but the language of strength. When this video ends, the science fades, but the feelings remain, all the quiet, invisible movements that make you human. The joy that flickers, the fear that protects, the love that reshapes everything it touches. Your emotions are not intruders to be silenced, but messages, small, electric truths passed between body and mind. Tonight, I hope you felt how intricate that system is, how ancient, how tender, if you're still here, drifting in that soft space between thought and sleep. Tell me where you are in the world, what time it is, and how you're feeling right now. I love reading your words. They make this vast, digital night feel like a single shared room. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Sleep Labs each week. We slow down together and explore the hidden side of science, the beauty beneath biology, the poetry within physics, the quiet pulse of what makes us alive. For now, breathe deeply. Let the noise of the day fall away. You are allowed to feel all of it. The calm, the ache, the wonder. That's what it means to be here, to be conscious, to be part of this fleeting, brilliant thing we call being human.